to 5 o'clock.
I started the recording.
Okay.
I've learned how to do these things over the last 6 months. Who knew?
Quite proficient.
Still have another minute.
Okay, I'm gonna stop my video and I'm just gonna send some emails to make sure people are coming. Since my clock actually says 5. So I'll be right back with you.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4 of us here, but.
Oh, you're right. Oh, good. All right, so we can start. Excellent. All right, well, welcome to the Wellfleet Historical Commission meeting. We have a quorum of 4 out of our 7 commissioners, and hopefully we'll be having other commissioners join us soon. And we have a new commissioner who is Mac Gatch, who we're very pleased to have with us. And he and Gordon are both joining us from New York City. So we're all the more grateful that they're able to be here and be at the same time very far away. So thanks so much for joining us, Mac. And I should also say that Mac will be leaving at 6. We may well finish up by then, but often it takes us a little bit longer. So we're glad to have you at least for an hour. And thanks for being here. Oh, you're muted, I think. Are you?
I don't think so.
Oh, there you are. I hear you now.
Yeah.
Great.
Just muttering.
Oh.
Already? We haven't even done anything.
So let's see. So the first item on the agenda is 290 Payne Hollow Road, and that's Robin and Jennifer Parkinson. And Jamie Wood is presenting, but I don't. Jamie
actually,
not here. Yes.
Diane Addison is presenting. Jamie Wood works with me in my office.
Ah, okay, great. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Can you give us your video by chance? We don't see you.
So we're sort of, here we go.
Oh, there you go.
There you are.
I messed up and I'm here with the Parkinsons. We're at the library because we thought it was in person. So we're on the park bench
Oh, that
at
sounds
the library.
Congratulations for figuring it out on time. That's very impressive that you managed to do a Zoom meeting.
Yeah. So it's pretty straightforward. It's just.
I'm sorry, Diane, just give me a moment so I can share the screen. So
sorry about that.
Your application.
And
Okay.
Gordon usually does a little explanation of the project from our point of view. Do you want to do that, Gordon, or?
I mean, sure. I mean, it's really a very straightforward project, and it's in the interest of ecology, really, and the idea of installing solar panels on the southwest facing roof. I have to say that although sometimes it's awfully hard to swallow them because they're not as attractive as some other roofing materials, we're generally completely in favor of them because they really are of such benefit.
Yes, this is true. Diane, would you like to talk more about the project?
Just sort of to follow up with what Gordon was just saying, it's very straightforward. They're all black panels in a perfect rectangle, no obstructions. So you can only see it going in one direction down the road. All the panels are facing in the same direction. Mm-hmm. So it just is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's a lovely house, and clearly they're taking very good care of it.
Yes. Payne Hollow Road is here.
Yes.
Yep.
And then the solar panels are here.
So our main, we really want to support solar in Wellfleet, and our main concern is about preserving the historic structure. And so as long as the solar panels are being installed in such a way that the structure will be preserved, we generally tend to support this kind of thing. And I assume that you're having it mounted in such a way that the house will be intact.
Oh, yes. It's flush to the building, very much just like Wellfleet Preservation Hall.
Yeah.
Right. Or 230 Payne Hollow Road.
Right. Except that those are mixed and matched. Those are in landscape and portrait position. Ours are going to be in all portrait position, making it even more aesthetically pleasing.
Okay, good. Simple is better in this case.
Yeah.
Okay. So any other questions on the part of any other commission members?
No.
Okay, then I would like to make a motion that we accept this proposal as presented. Would anybody?
I second the motion, or Jim does.
And shall we vote? Merrill votes aye.
Gordon, aye.
Jim, aye.
And I saw Mac raising his hand as well.
Yeah.
Good. So congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
for us. And thanks for finding a way to be here on time despite the challenges.
Yes,
You
enjoy
should
the
say.
bench.
Have a good evening. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Yes. So the next item on the agenda is 131 Rockwell Avenue, and Kyle Keegan is here to present, and Gordon will likely do a short explanation.
Hey, Kyle, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
Sure. And the intention is to install a metal roof.
This is correct. It's a metal shingle roof meant to look like asphalt shingles. Instead of the other style that you see with the long panels. Traditionally, when we've gone to historic districts and committees before, we're going from something that's a little bit more historic of a material, like a slate or a tin roof or something like that, and trying to emulate slate. In this scenario, there's already asphalt on there. So we're just making it look like asphalt with our shingles, but there's a lot more benefits to the homeowner.
Can you describe some of those benefits?
So the benefits would include a much, much higher wind rating. Your traditional asphalt is going to have wind ratings of under 100 miles per hour, where this is rated up to 165. It will never rust. It never has to be replaced. Any snow, I know you don't get a ton down there, but snow slides off of it. And the salt in the air will not corrode the material or the paint either. So it'll keep it looking brand new, and the shingles won't degrade like the material that's up there now.
So sometimes when I've observed standing seam metal roofs, which we use a lot if we're doing a house in Vermont or a house in Colorado, I mean, it's a usual material for us to use. And in the old days, we used to use ones that were unfinished, and we had turned metal or we had copper and let them go. So I wonder if you could talk about sort of the level of sheen on the material itself.
So the color that we're proposing to put on there is a dawn gray. Some of the lighter colors will have a little bit of sheen, and also the slate finish, because it's a smooth finish. Now, this is going to be difficult to maybe see, through this, but this shingle here has a embossed texture to it, which will cut down on, the sheen that you see from other kinds of metal roofs, where, you're not going to have a flat finish, so to say.
And is the embossed pattern a regular pattern on each shingle, or does it vary from shingle to shingle?
It's the same. I wouldn't be able to say if it was the exact same just because of how many little dimples there are, but they're identical, yes.
I'm sorry. No, I mean, sort of speaking personally from my point of view, I tend to shy away from materials that are kind of forcing themselves to look like other materials. And there's something about the idea, if you're going to do this, of instead of doing an embossed shingle, just doing a shingle that's not embossed, particularly since if the pattern is pretty much the same on every shingle, it reveals itself as not being truly weathered. Sort of like a stone tile floor repeats itself in 12 by 12 squares.
Right. And the way that they design these ones is it's meant to look like a 3-tab architectural shingle that's up there. If we went with just a smooth finish, then it's going to look more like a metal roof. It's not going to look like a weathered, shingle. And that's kind of what they try to do, is make it look like granules on the tabs on there. And then when you see it put together, they stagger it so that you have a design that's going to look like an architectural shingle there. With some, they want it to look like almost natural material.
Right. Or otherwise, would you be able to still have a 3-tab kind of situation like that with just a smooth shingle, or are they always embossed?
What they would do is they would get rid of these indentations that make it look like a 3-tab, and it would just be a flat metal shingle right across.
That wide.
Yeah, same size. These are all exactly the same size. This is an actual shingle that would go on. It's 9 by 18 inches. So even like the slate profile that we have, it's a 2-stamp slate, and it's just a slightly different pattern, but it doesn't have that embossed texture to it. So you'll have that more of a sheen look, just like slate would too. And these will never grow any moss or anything on them or lichen, so there's no maintenance to them either.
Does anybody have any other comments before I continue to talk about this?
I do. I went to see the house today, and I went to see the building on 70 Hamlin Farm Road as well, where this kind of shingle was installed. And the house is off of Ocean View Drive, and it's at the very end of the street that it's on, so it's overlooking the ocean. It's not very visible from the ocean or from surrounding houses. And it's certainly not visible from Ocean View Drive. And it's a 1930s house that I don't think of as being the kind of house that we generally are most concerned about. And it seems to me that this roofing is practical for the circumstances that the house is in, right near the ocean, and that it clearly needs a new roof. So I actually, I might have concerns about this if it were my older house. But given the age of the house, and given the fact that it's not evident from the road, I don't have any difficulties with this.
Okay.
But I'm open to other people's thoughts about it, obviously.
Does anyone have any other thoughts?
No, I just say I agree with Merrill's reasoning on that.
Yeah. I mean, again, I have no objection to using a new material in a case like this as technology is developed and it becomes more practical and reasonable, particularly given the location of the house. I mean, in terms of its visibility, but even if it were visible, it's perfectly reasonable to me to do something of today. Again, my only slight hesitation is always about materials that are trying to look like something other than what they really are. And so that sometimes gives me pause, but given that this isn't really visible from anywhere, I could back up the application.
I agree with you, Gordon. I think that what you're saying is true. And there was one other house within the last year that we came in front of us that wanted to do a similar roof. It's kind of hard to tell. There's not a lot of examples for us to look at. Yeah. There's one house on the highway in Eastham, and there's one on Shore Road in Truro. And I'm not sure if it's the same product or not, but I mean, we all have our own personal preferences. I didn't really care for the products on those two properties that I've looked at. And I don't know if this is the same product or similar, but there's not a lot of examples to really go. The only concern with this house being out of the way, I lean towards being okay with it. I just think we have to be careful. If we're going to tell people not to use cement board siding or vinyl siding and that type of thing, I mean, roofing and siding, if we're going to let some things go, we should let everything go.
Luke, we wouldn't disallow metal roofs in general, right? I mean, we might disallow vinyl siding in general, but a metal roof is not something, I mean, metal roofs are nice.
Well, historically speaking, there has not been metal roofs in Wellfleet, you know,
Right.
more northern parts of New England, and it would be a standing seam metal roof, not
Right.
something that looked like a, you know, either an asphalt shingle. And to me, those don't look like an architectural asphalt shingle at all. But, you know,
Yeah,
it's like not many examples to go by. I just think if we're going to let this product go, I mean, personal preferences are personal preferences, and I don't want to, you know, have my opinions be too,
right.
You know, in my mind, the properly installed cement board siding is much more convincing and attractive than this product. So, you know, I think if we're going to go back and forth with products that are not historically accurate, and newer to the market, then, you know, we should be open to letting more products be applied on these older buildings, you know. And if we're gonna let this go, then why not the next product or the one after that? That's just my opinion.
Precedent setting is something to take into consideration. And also, I mean, I think that it's, you know, historic guidelines, you know, from the Department of the Interior, don't suggest that you can't use a material other than that which was originally installed on a house. I think they leave room for something of today. For example, the recent foundation that we approved on School Street, you know, it's not stone, it's not brick, it's a poured concrete foundation. So, you know, it's something of today, and it will just be parged and it'll look like it's something of today, as opposed to faking out, you know, fake brick or something like that. I guess, I don't know. Luke, where is the house in Eastham on the highway or the building?
It's almost across from the chocolate cafe. Used to be a general store.
Across Route 6 from it, towards like Aspinet Road, sort of over there.
And I don't know that there could be differences, and that's part of what I'm trying to say is I don't know enough about these products to know the differences from one to the next, or if I'm even comparing apples to apples. But you know, I have a feeling from the couple examples of similar products that I've seen, if they were all over town, somebody would start to object to them. I don't think that that's a far-fetched assumption. So, you know,
right.
If we're going to set a precedent.
Yeah. Would they object to like Tesla roof tiles, I wonder, because they have the, you know, solar component? I mean,
I'm not.
Yeah, you make a good point, Luke.
Well, so my dilemma is that the two of you are experts. Gordon is our architect and Luke is our contractor. And so, you know, your opinions matter greatly.
Do you think we could ask you, Kyle, to provide us with physical samples of the materials that we could take a look at on site?
You absolutely could. I could send those down to you. I am looking up the Eastham town right now. We have 1, 2, 3 roofs in Eastham
that are of this material.
Yep, 4 of them. I'm sorry. One of them being a mill finish, which is extremely unique. It's a just straight sheen roof. So that's a very unique one. We also have another one that's a lot of driftwood cedar in Eastham too. We're the only company with Permalock. So there's other like materials, but we're the only one with this material, Permalock specifically.
Kyle, can I just ask you, of the houses that you're talking about in Eastham, do any of them have this particular roof that you're proposing?
Not the exact same color, no.
And do any of them have the style?
Yes,
So could you give us an address that has the style?
I absolutely could. Yeah.
And send us materials of that, actual sample of the color, so we can take a look at it.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, that would be great. So it sounds like we need to vote for a continuance then.
And
Yeah.
if you don't mind, if I'd like to say one other thing, to Luke's point about, trying to make something look like something, and, the cement board siding, a lot of times when you're dealing with these homes, you're dealing with like older products, dealing with slate roofs. We've run into that in historic committees too. I find this project to be a little bit different just on the location, but it does happen to be in the historic area. So.
My experience of it, just from an architect watching things, is that about 20 years ago, we used to install these roofs, in Westchester and like Larchmont and Scarsdale, that looked like slate. And then you go back to look at them 10 years later, and they haven't aged. They look kind of shiny. They look kind of plasticky. It just doesn't develop the same kind of weathering. That said, I personally don't want to be just closed down to only using sort of original materials. I'd like to look at what you're proposing and see what it is. And as everybody knows, like when one person proposed some sort of, there was vinyl siding going over something, and it was embossed. And my concern is that it gives itself away, not just because it's kind of shiny and it's vinyl, but because the pattern is the same on every clapboard. And so it doesn't look like it's weathered. It just looks like it's embossed.
Yeah. I'm also not against new technologies and using new products, even in a historic district or on historically significant homes. But I just, to me, it's important to, if we're going to pick and choose which materials we feel strongly about, then that's coming down to personal preferences. And I think that that's a slippery slope.
It is.
So, I'd at least like to know that everybody's seen the product in an application. I'd feel better about moving forward with it.
And at the same time, I'd like to refer to Sarah and ask her opinion of using this product, and read over the historic preservation guidelines from the Department of the Interior, just to see sort of how this falls in relationship to their guidelines, so that we establish a standard across the board, and we're not just arbitrarily saying, yeah, that looks okay.
Meryl, you didn't comment on the Hamlin farmhouse?
Oh, well, we did approve the Hamlin farmhouse, it is a shiny roof. It's a black roof, so it's a different roof than this one. I don't have a lot of difficulty with it, but I agree that we need to figure out how we're going to deal with this new product. So I think we do need to vote for a continuance in this case. And I think it makes sense to consult with Sarah Korchev, who's the preservation specialist at the Cape Cod Commission and has been helpful for us around this kind of issue.
And so, Kyle, please understand, we're not trying to be uncooperative. We're just trying to make sure that when we make a decision and have a vote about this, that it's based on guidelines and standards and sets a precedent that's an appropriate precedent to set.
Yeah, completely understand. And, Luke has a great point about that. It's, if you approve this, then it's what other materials, should you be able to? So you got to do your due diligence. I understand.
Yeah. Just that.
Thank you.
So can you actually send a physical sample of that stuff down to us somehow?
Yep. Yeah. I can either FedEx it, or I can have one of my drivers in the area drop one off. I'm trying to see if I have an installation going on right now somewhere near you guys. I think Dennisport is the closest thing to you that I have an installation going. But we have tons of clients in the Cape, just because of the weather that's, out there and the way our material stands up. So this may not be the last time that you see, East Coast Metal Roofing at the committee. Right. We, want to do everything appropriately for you.
So will you email us some addresses?
So I wrote down a few here.
And then Meryl,
everybody kind of in that area, like Eastham area.
Eastham, I have. Truro, that's good.
Yeah, if you could send us addresses of homes that have as similar a roof as possible to this, that would be helpful. We don't really need to see everything, just something that would apply in this case, if that's okay.
Yeah, the closest thing I have is a charcoal, which is a little bit darker than the dawn gray, and that's over in, is it Truro?
Yeah,
that's great. That's very close to us. Yeah,
that's
the closest thing that I can find and the closest to you. So.
And Eastham is also close to us. So if you have any addresses there, that's also helpful.
Or Orleans.
I can give you those. They're just not, they're brown color, not gray.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Meryl, to where do you suppose the samples should be sent or delivered?
That is a challenge. I guess to the Wellfleet Historical Commission at Wellfleet Town Hall, and then they'll call and we can go pick it up.
Okay, that's great.
Should I attention anybody or just historical?
You can attention me if you want. I think you have the spelling of my name, and
I see it right there.
Yeah, and just do Wellfleet Historical Commission. That would be great. So I'd like to make a motion, if that's okay. I'd like to make a motion for a continuance on this project, and the request is that Kyle send us a physical sample of the material that will be used, and that he send us at least one address in the local area that would be using a material similar to what's going to be used. And we also will consult with Sarah Korchef, the Cape Cod Commission's preservation specialist, about the use of this kind of material on historic homes.
Okay, I second that motion.
Okay. I, Meryl, vote aye.
Gordon, aye.
Jim, aye.
Luke, aye.
Susan, aye.
I think Max said aye too. I saw his hand go up. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you all. And thank you, Kyle. We look forward to continued communication with you about this.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, and we'll plan to meet with you in our meeting next month, and hopefully we'll have a decision by then for you.
All right, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Thanks, Luke and Gordon, for your input on that. That was helpful. Okay. And Susan, it's great to see you.
I'm so sorry I was late.
I'm glad you made it.
Stuck in traffic and I didn't have wireless, and it was like, I'm just gonna drive home and sign on as soon as I get home. So I apologize. Jim, I've started taking notes. Are you taking notes or?
I am, yes.
Okay, I'll pick up next time. I apologize for being late today.
That's fine.
And I haven't heard from Evelyn Lakis. Jim, you met with her this week. Was she planning to be here?
I'm not sure of that.
Okay, all right. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the Wellfleet Historical Commission presentation. And as you all know, I think we're having Lynn Smilage, who's the preservation specialist from Wellfleet, present on Wellfleet's historic houses and the stories they tell on October 25th from 7 to 8:30. And the Wellfleet Library is going to run the Zoom meeting for us, and they're handling the registrations for us. So we're very grateful to Jennifer Workin for doing that at the library. And the library and the Wellfleet Historical Society and Museum are both helping with publicity. And Jim and Evelyn have also been working on publicity, and I have as well. So I guess I'll just say quickly, what I did was sent out the letter that I sent to all of you with a copy of the flyer that Jennifer Workin created to everybody that I know, basically, who I thought might be interested, and asked them to send it to everybody that they know. And several people got back to me and said that they had sent it on to other people. And I imagine if we all do that, there will be overlaps because we live in a small town. But the great thing is it's a Zoom meeting. And so you can send it to people who aren't just in Wellfleet, who are interested in historic houses. And I think it would be wonderful if everyone else was also willing to send out some notices, because Lynn's clearly put a lot of work into this. I've seen her PowerPoint presentation, and it looks great. It's rich with material of historic maps and historic houses. And she's going to be talking about the work of the commission, as well as a lot of the stories about the houses and the people who've lived in them, and sort of the history of the town and how it's developed over time. So I think it's going to be great.
I've shared it with some of my social media, and I've also sent it to people that I know would be interested. So that's what I've done. But yeah, it looks like a really great program. I'm really excited about it, watching it.
Thank you. Thanks so much for doing that, Susan. Appreciate it.
Sure.
And Jim, do you want to add anything about what you and Evelyn are doing around publicity?
Yeah, well, we did have flyers printed on cardstock, which, and we made a posting on the community wall downtown at the old news dealers building, also in the AIM thrift shop. And we've also circulated those to the local merchants for posting. We have an advertisement that's running on the Wellfleet community space as of yesterday. We'll change that weekly to refresh it, and we hope keep it in mind. We've also submitted today a free advertisement for the community announcements section of the Provincetown Independent. So it had to be boiled down to distilled to 50 words, but we've managed to do that, and that should appear, I think, next week.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
And I'm going to do an email blast to CPC members, because they're well connected, and I think maybe they'll be saturated with this. Who knows? But I think they'll pass it on to people they know.
Great. Okay. Thanks so much. I forgot to mention, I also posted it on our Instagram account for the Wellfleet Historical Commission. And in my email blast, I sent it to Teresa Parker and Ed Miller of the Independent, and Teresa wrote back to me and said, "This looks really great. I'm going to see if we can do an article about it." So it's lovely that you volunteered that possibility, and we'll see if it happens. So all good news. Okay, anything else about that anyone wants to mention?
Great work, everybody.
Oh, good. So the next item on the agenda is the one that Gordon's putting up, which is that Gordon has worked very hard on creating a new application for us, and I've been working on editing it with him and his secretary. And this is what we've come up with. And Gordon, do you want to describe a little bit about what you've done and why?
I guess our previous application was a little ambiguous, and it also was not well suited to our current meeting format, which is Zoom. And so we were receiving applications in all different formats, and in zip drives, and in this and in that. And I was just spending literally hours and hours and hours trying to assemble what needs to be shared at the meeting. And also, you may have noticed that when Meryl sent the agenda for this meeting, she also included PDFs of the projects that were going to be presented. And so really the main goal of this application is to ask everybody to submit applications in clear PDF format. That way we can share it with the commission members prior to the meeting, and also I can easily access it when we're doing this presentation. In addition to that, we wanted to refer to the fact that we, are not totally arbitrary, right? We kind of paint colors are not subject to review. Interiors are not just a policy on roofing, decking, and siding is as follows. If replacement is in kind, like for like, the project does not require review. And then we also asked for drawings to be sent to the town hall, which is slightly different, and to provide a site plan or a survey. And maybe most significantly, in terms of the presentations, we asked that existing elevations and new elevations be drawn either side by side or above and below one another so that we can easily compare what's there today versus what's going to be there.
Can I say something, Gordon?
Yeah.
One thing is we actually asked them to drop off the applications at the building department, not the town hall now.
I'm sorry, at the town hall. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason for that is that that will allow the building inspector to compare what they're getting for the building permit with what we're getting for the historical commission and make sure it's the same proposal. So that when we say we accepted the proposal as presented, it will be the same one they know. And they also have, it makes more sense for it to be stored there because they're the ones who basically monitor these and make sure that that people have followed through with what our decisions have been. So I did call Jennifer Congle, the town clerk, to make sure this was all okay, and she checked it all out, and it's fine for us both to make a new application and for us to have the forms filed at the building department. So that's going to be a nice change, I think. I think it will streamline things.
Yeah. Does anybody have any comments about the new application?
It looks great. It looks clear.
Yeah, just the idea was clear, PDFs, manufacturers' data sheets to back everything up, get the applications to the right place, get them in 5 days prior. So Meryl can put the agenda together. I can send Meryl the PDFs and we can send them out to you guys so you can visit the sites before the meeting.
Great.
Looks great.
Did everybody get the PDFs? Did anybody have a chance to look at them before the meeting?
I did.
Oh, good. And were you able to see the proposals? And
everything looked great. It was, I could see the proposals, I could see the documentation, I could see the photographs. So it was a good format.
Hooray! Great to hear.
It worked.
Meryl, may I just say something else that's not exactly on the agenda at this moment, but I just wanted to say that, we had worked hard on compiling our own regulations, or sort of our own guidelines to supplement the Department of Interior's guidelines. And Meryl is diligently working on getting an opinion from our preservationist consultant as to how we can enact those guidelines. And, the goal would be to make them as public as possible so that people are understanding kind of what we're about and we no longer appear to be arbitrary. And the only question is, can we make those guidelines public? Helen Miranda Wilson I spoke to says we definitely can, but I think we better check and make sure that we're not overstepping and that it doesn't require some sort of vote by the select board or something at one of the town meetings. We want to try to keep it as simple as possible. So Meryl's working on that.
Yeah. And I did hear back from Sarah Kortchef today, and we'll be talking soon. So I can talk with her both about this roofing issue and the design guidelines this week.
And I just mentioned something too about the design guidelines. So the Secretary of the Interior guidelines, they put out, I think a couple of years ago now, sustainability guidelines too for adapting historic buildings for rising sea level and climate thing. It's part and parcel of that, those guidelines now. So yeah, I think particularly for Wellfleet, I think that's going to be a really important thing for us to one, be knowledgeable about as a group, and two, to consider in our own guidelines. So I included that on the resources page in the redone drive, which I'd be happy to go over with you guys.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm realizing I should have put you on the agenda and I did not. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So, all right.
I can do it. It will take literally 3 minutes to show you guys what I've done. And if you have any issues, you can let me know or not. But it would be best if somebody could share the drive on the screen. I'm happy to do it, or somebody else can do it. Just so we could go through it.
Oh, actually, no, I do have you on the agenda. It's
okay, good.
So we'll get to that.
Okay,
great.
Good.
All right. So the next item on the agenda is community preservation. And Jim's going to talk to us about what's happening with the Community Preservation Committee, which he's our representative on that committee, and they're the people that fund the work that we do with the Form Bs.
Yes, well, as it says on the agenda, the Community Preservation Committee is going to be conducting a public hearing with the Select Board in December or January to discuss our community needs, and they're in 4 domains: community housing, historic preservation, which is our focus, open space and recreation. And they've called upon the committees and agencies responsible for each domain to review and update their lists. So pursuant to that, the Historical Commission and the Wellfleet Historical Society and Museum are responsible for identifying the historic preservation needs. And the Wellfleet Historical Commission, however, has jurisdiction over the allocation and expenditure of those funds. So we maintain control, but we do consult. So in that vein, Meryl and I developed a needs list with the participation of Cheryl Jaffe and David Wright from the Wellfleet Historical Museum. And I hope you received it. I sent it via email. I don't know if we can screen share if someone has a copy to put on the screen or if that's necessary to do, but if you've seen it, that is indeed what we came up with. Those needs are listed by category: historic places, New England industries, getting feedback, and cultural history. And they're in a priority order, so they're kind of in a hierarchy. So I do hope you received it. I don't know how you'd like to discuss them, if you'd like to go point by point, or if you just want to look at those that you have questions about or concerns about. Obviously, our focus is is under historical places, the first of the categories.
Jim, can I just interrupt for a sec? I'm just wondering, Gordon, do we have this to put up on the screen?
I do not know where.
I have it. I can share
Susan,
it.
you have it? I made Susan the host temporarily, so
Okay.
she's there. We've been
Let me see if I can share it. There
Great.
you are. Hold on a sec.
Thank you.
That's not going to work.
I had a hard time accessing.
Are you guys seeing that? Are you seeing that or no?
No.
Okay, hold on. Let me get back to Zoom. Got too many openings here, too many things open.
Do you want to?
We could also read the items. Oh,
let me see if I can share. That's just fine. Here we go. There we go.
Thank you. Great.
This is the thing this is the list that Jim sent us.
Right.
That's right. Thank you. That's great.
Thanks.
Sure.
Go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
Yeah. So in the first category of historic places, which is our focus, the prevailing need and the highest priority is continuing to document Wellfleet's historical properties on building inventory forms, Form Bs. 102 of those have been completed to date, and we are envisioning the completion of 25 more of them under current grants that are underwriting that kind of work. There could be more money available in the future, and we're hopeful of that, but that's our primary focus. And then there are these other concerns. Posting signs identifying points of historical interest as seen from the vantage point and perspective of the marina, conducting a survey of the historical schoolhouses in Wellfleet, identifying buildings that were relocated from Billingsgate Island and Bound Brook Island. For this one, evidence is needed, and it could be expensive, but on the other hand, there could be some reliance on oral history about this, and structures that are thought to have been relocated. That's appeared in that language has appeared in a number of the Form Bs that we have, and we think that lens mileage could be helpful to us there in identifying those properties. And locating and mapping historic brooks and springs is sort of a very low priority, but nevertheless has remained on the list. Shall I go on, or are there questions,
I have
comments, concerns?
I have one thing to add, which is that the 102 forms that Jim referred to were the forms that have been completed by Lynn Smilage, who's been.
Oh, that's right. There was another person who.
Yeah, we did have a preservation specialist before whose name was Eric Dre, and
yes,
I don't know the number of inventories that he updated, but we actually have more than 102 Form Bs that have been updated. I'm not sure we need to go through the whole thing. I wonder if maybe, people could just, you know, if you can read it now, if you haven't read it before, or if you did read it before, if you could just say if you have any questions or concerns about any of the items on the list.
I would think that item E under historical places located in mapping Wellfleet's historic books could be part of the creating an online historical maps room in a way, because
Yes.
I have old maps of Wellfleet that show old brooks and springs, so that if,
Yeah.
I mean, that might be a way to kind of a sub project of that work.
Good idea. Yeah.
That's a very good idea.
Okay, and that's a project that the Historical Society and Museum is taking on, and they've already started with. So, yeah. I actually have a question too about B under historic places, about as seen from the marina. I should say that this list originally was made up by a previous historical commission member in collaboration with the Historical Society Museum. And so we took their items and then prioritized them based on conversation with people at the Historical Society, but I'm not sure what that means. Does anybody else understand what that means? Why as seen from the marina?
I mean, there are some signs at the marina already that are more about kind of the natural environment. I don't know if it means something similar to that.
Yeah,
or
marina, maybe that's what it means.
that's the only thing I can think of.
that was my understanding, that it would be something there. And from that perspective, you'd be guided to the features of the town.
Standing at the marina, looking at
standing at the marina and looking from there. You are here, and there. Here's where.
Right. That's, yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay.
And for example, saying this is where the Chiquesset Inn was, and this is where it would be hard to.
It seems like it's a little tricky, yeah.
Yeah, it may be a bit ambitious. I don't know how much detail you can have from that perspective.
You could have individual signs at historic places, you know, a small grouping of, and then you could have a walking tour, or you could provide that, you know, and say, here are the, with a map or something you could give out to at the tourist at the, you know, at the beach shack or something like that.
Right.
Kind of nice to have, but that would be nice.
Yeah, I like that idea. So my suggestion would be maybe we leave out as seen from the marina.
Yes.
Yeah. It seems somewhat limiting.
Yes.
And actually, I'm realizing that I was looking around to see some of the other historical commissions' websites and, you know, what they're doing. Truro actually has a historic tour that they've created that people can put on their phones, which of course is a whole other thing, but I think they can also do it on the computer. I don't know if we want to do that, but I do think it would be.
It's easy to do.
I think it's a goal there these days. People walk around with their phones.
Sorry, yeah, somebody has to rate the content, and then you just have to, I don't know what the app is, but I know that there's an app that you can just purchase that people can then do a, you know, they can hold up their phone to a scan code and just get the information either in person or on the computer ahead of time or something.
So I don't know if we want to add that to the list. I guess the only thing is that it might conflict with the work that the Historical Society Museums already their tours.
I think that seems more of a Historical Society project.
Historical Society, yeah.
Leave that out. But is everybody okay with crossing out as seen from the marina? Any objections?
Yes. Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. And oh, I know the other thing I wanted to mention was that Cheryl Jaffe at the museum told me when we were talking about this issue of identifying buildings relocated, she said that in Provincetown they have little plaques on the buildings that have been moved to P-Town from, I forget, Long Island or something, not New York.
Long Point. Yeah, little blue and white tiles, the floaters they call them.
Yeah, so you know, we could think about doing something like that, but that just would be sort of a subcategory of B.
Yeah, I think it would be great once we knew which ones we could kind of semi-definitively say were,
Yeah.
like my house, part of it was moved from either Boundbrook or Billingsgate. I've seen both
Right.
pieces of information, but it would be cool if that would be a cool kind of sub project for that once we kind of had a sense.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
It is a great story.
Yeah. So the other two categories, the industries and the cultural history, is primarily the kinds of things that the Historical Society and Museum are thinking about working on, and we can certainly collaborate on these things as well. Yeah. Anything anybody else wants to say about this list?
You know, just seeing burial grounds on this, one of the things that you can create historic districts that protect historic cemeteries. That's one of the kind of local historic districts that you can set up, and that's just something to bear in mind as we move forward. That might be something that we want to consider for some of the cemeteries in town.
Yeah,
burial grounds.
Mentioning that, yeah.
So,
and do you know if those are local historic districts, not an RHP? Yeah.
Right. And just as an aside, and I can talk about this when I'm talking, I had a really long conversation with a friend of mine who's the curator of Historic New England and who's on the Historic Commission in Ipswich, which, you know, has more 17th century houses than any place in the country, and has been doing this for quite a long time. And she had some interesting observations about things like preservation restrictions and stuff. Maybe I'll talk about that when I get to my little point on the agenda, but it was quite interesting.
Great, thank you.
So with that change, removing as seen from Bound Brook Island, this list seems fine to me.
Yeah.
Great, okay. I'm sorry, what are you saying about Bound Brook Island, Gordon?
I'm sorry, not from Bound Brook Island, from the marina.
Okay.
As seen from the marina, right?
Yeah, yes.
It wasn't anything from Bound Brook.
Well, a lot of water. Okay, thanks so much for your work on this, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And now the next item is about several things related to the historic plan and Form Bs. The first, Jim had mentioned that Jim has done a lot of work on developing contracts for Lynn silage. Do you want to talk about that, Jim?
Yes, actually, there are two contracts which we have prepared. Well, actually three, because there's one for the workshop that she's presenting, and there are two others because we're trying to differentiate the funding sources. One is from the 2018 CPC grant, and the other from the 2019 grant. And from the 2018 grant, which we must expend by the end of the calendar year, we're envisioning that Lynn would be able to complete 15 Form Bs. There's also an additional proviso that we put in her contract, and that is for the provision of color paper copies of the 102 forms that were previously developed, and to have those available for the Wellfleet Public Library, for which she will be reimbursed that expense. So she will be reimbursed that expense. That will be within the scope of that contract, and we will expend all of the money remaining in the 2018 grant. We've also in this grant increased her rate by 7%, which she clearly deserves. She does extremely high quality work, and she's very proficient. So her rate per form was $220. It will now go to $235. For the 2019 grant, there's less money remaining there. 10 more Form Bs would be prepared. So the aggregate under the two grants would be for 25 more Form Bs and a workshop for which she's compensated $400.
Sounds good to me.
I hope it sounds good to her.
Thank you, Jim, for focusing on that.
Yeah, thank you. Have you had a chance to talk to her about any of this?
I've talked to her about some of it, but I was waiting on our discussion at this meeting to go forward with anything more definitive with her. But
Okay.
I'll be happy to do that once you give me the proviso to go forward.
Okay. I just was curious about the issue of photocopying, since I know we went back and forth about that, whether that's okay.
Yep. Printing them out, yeah. I mean, I think she's being compensated for it, so I think it's only, whether she regards that as a task that she wants to do, but it wouldn't be at her expense.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we'll just wait and see. Well, I really appreciate your work on the contracts, and I'm ready for you to present them to her.
Very well.
I am too.
All right. We shall do that.
Okay.
I shall do that.
Any objections, concerns? Okay. Yeah, my only hope is that we can, now that, we had not applied for more money this year because of the pandemic, basically. And because it just seemed like we hadn't used all of the money that we'd been given for 2018. So it seemed a bit much to ask for more, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to have her do more updating of Form Bs in the future. And we'll have to wait for the next cycle with the CPC to ask for more money.
Right.
Okay. And then Susan has been doing a wonderful job of organizing the information on our Google Drive, which is such a great gift. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah,
Susan?
let me go to share screen again if I can. Am that okay to do, Gordon?
Yeah, absolutely. You're still the host. Just...
Okay, hold on. So here's our drive, and what I've done is I've tried to form. I've just organized it by kind of content, and I'm just going to run through it quickly. So we had in the drive are the write-ups we did for the annual town report. I just put it under annual town report. We had various commission management and forms like the demolition form and other things. I just put those under kind of this thing. Some of that was previous commission members who had drawn up kind of processes that we use. And then forms, the cultural resources area. These are just for areas versus individual buildings. So the Colony, the downtown district, and Blackfish Creek area. So as we get any more of those are Mass Cultural Resource Area pages that were on the drive. So I just put them there. This is the big one. This is Form B by street name. That's and then with documentation under each building. So
so helpful. All of this.
So let me go to that. A street that we know has something. So Baker Ave. So here are all the Form Bs in Baker Ave that we have. Oh. And so you can just go to Baker Ave and look them up.
So great. Thank you.
It's really not hard to do. And then there's also, let me find one that has, where's Briar Lane? So here's what we have for Briar Lane. And as you know, 20 Briar Lane is an issue. So for properties that have supporting documentation or additional documentation, I've set up files. These are just individual Form Bs. These are files on properties. So this is, I didn't do much on this. This is just all the 20 Briar Lane stuff that was on the drive.
Right.
Which is a lot. So somebody can go through that and organize it further if they'd like to, but at least you can find it more easily.
Great.
And then let me give you one more example if I can find a good one. Neck Road. So here, all these properties had multiple documentation associated with them. So I just made folders of them. This is the Colony property.
Right.
So this has for 640 Quest, it has all the information that they sent us, including drawings. So they're all in one place. So that's pretty much kind of what I did with the Form Bs.
That's great.
I did a mailing and correspondence. So we've done mailings ourselves. We've gotten correspondence. I just threw it in here. I have separate meetings and meeting agendas and minutes. So agendas here. So when you are doing an agenda, this one actually did not come through on my computer. I can't read that, but if you're doing an agenda, this is where you should store the copy of the agenda when you do it, or the minutes of the meeting, which I will be doing after Jim this time. So here are the minutes from all the dates. And one thing that I'd like to point out is I think we need to decide on format, on file name format, so that it's all kind of like here. I would probably change all the minutes going forward, and I can do that once I take on my role as secretary, which I'll do next month, to like the date first, and then the fact that it's minutes, or minute, historical committee minutes, and then the date, so that it's just all standardized. Yeah. And the same is kind of true of the Form Bs and the way that they're saved, but you can see how they're named, so you can just copy the naming that was used. These are photos, and I don't know necessarily which buildings these are because I wasn't involved in these. So at some point, somebody's got to go through this and put these with the properties, the address in that other folder, because I don't know which ones they are. Okay. So those are just unidentified photos. There's actually not a preservation restriction on the preservation hall. There was supposed to be, but as far as I can tell, it was never properly filed. Yeah. So I don't know what's happened with that, but this was all the information related to that preservation, and that's the only preservation restriction that I was able to find. How do I get out of this? That's not working. Hold on. That's weird.
So if you click on that arrow up above on the left-hand side, you can.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I got it. Okay. So I just have preservation restriction there. Resources and reports are things that these are other towns' historic commission work, and you had sent around that one from Hamilton, and I added the Ipswich ones that my friend had just told me about. They have something interesting. This is when I'll just give you a little update on what my friend, the curator at Historic New England, said. So the entire part of the historic town of Ipswich is under state historic district, national preservation district. There are individual preservation restrictions on some houses that the Historic Commission is named on the deed of those properties, and no alterations are supposed to happen, as outlined by the preservation restriction that was originally put in place by the homeowner. Wow. And agreed upon with the Historic Commission. But she said basically people forget, and the Historic Commission doesn't keep a list, and people forget that they have that, and so somebody buys the house two times later and finds out when they're trying to do something, there's a preservation restriction on it. So she said it really has not been very effective, and a lot of times people just go ahead and do the work anyway. So, so that was an interesting insight that she had in terms of how that is managed. They have something called an architectural historic district, which is in the really historic part of the town, and that does limit, does provide more oversight. And she also said that Concord thinks that they have like the best historic preservation district in the country and the best kind of control. And they actually do control things like paint color and things like that, which I'm not sure we want to get into, but I just included that there. Okay, so Secretary of the Interior guidelines, that includes the sustainability guidelines they just came out with that I think are really important for us to become familiar with. Yeah. And then this is just Wellfleet history and architecture stuff. The stuff that you did on Cape style homes with side additions. This is an old report on the development of the town. This is everything to do with kind of the modern houses in the colony and various modern architectural things in town. And these are those photos of additions on historic houses that you included, Meryl. So anything that we have in there, we can stick in our resources. Oh, and there's the survey. So you sent me the street surveys?
Yes.
So I just put them there under resources and reports because I didn't really know where else to put them.
Okay, great.
So those are the survey lists that we have for the properties in town.
I think there's one that's maybe not there because Lynn had updated one of Eric Dre's that I think was from July 2021.
Oh, great. I mean, if you have it, just drop it in here. That's the, you might have to look around a little bit until you can find where I put it, but I can also do it for you if you can't find it. And these things under here, this is a chat text with no identification, like I can't get into it.
Okay.
And this is another weird, it looks like it's pretty old about individual properties that these were notes that on making changes, I think, to something that was written up. So I don't think this is pertinent anymore, but I didn't want to delete it in case it was.
It doesn't look familiar to me, so I think it's not pertinent. Sorry. I don't really know what it's referring to.
Okay, let me get out of this. Sorry.
It's all right.
All right, so I can delete that then if everybody agrees.
Yeah, that's
that
fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I'll delete these two things because I don't think this was anything. I think there was some chat, some audio files that were kept, and I think this is a copy of one of them that just kind of that had to do with individual house that I saved it somewhere else. I just think this is just a non-viable version, so we'll get rid of it. So anyway, that's our drive, and if you do have documentation, now you know where you can put them. And obviously, the best thing to use are PDFs if you can save it in either Word or PDF. It's the best thing to do.
PDF seems to be the best. Susan, thank you for doing all this work. That seems like a big undertaking.
Not a problem. It was just organizing. You know, it's and then once it's done, if we can keep it up, it's all good.
Oh, I realize that for you it's no big deal, but for others of us, it's an incredible job, and we're very grateful.
I have trouble sorting out the Gmail.
Right. I know it's not easy. It's not easy, but anyway, so the drive has been done, which is helpful. So let me now get back to stopping to share the screen. Any questions about any of that stuff? Okay.
I think I'll have questions about how to add materials later, but we can handle that outside.
Absolutely. If you have any questions or any problems with documentation of any kind, let me know, because I'm pretty good at that. Just because I have to do it all the time. Great. Well, thank you. Famous last words, right? Then I'll be like, I don't know how to do that. What you just said.
Well, it's so terrific. I really appreciate it. Okay, and now we need to vote on Jim's minutes, which he sent out more than once. I hope that people have been able to read them.
Yes, I've read them.
Okay. Anybody have any? Well, he gave us an opportunity to give corrections. I don't know if anybody has anything to add or whether we should just go for the vote.
I think we can go for the vote.
Yeah.
I make a motion.
So I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I will second that motion.
Gordon, yes.
Meryl, yes.
Jim, yes. Susan,
yes.
Luke, yes.
Perfect. I think Matt has gone to his concert. He was only with us.
Yes, that's right. He went to the opening night at Carnegie Hall.
Oh, wow. What fun.
Yeah, very exciting. Okay, so that's done. And unless is there any accounting, Jim? Jim is also our treasurer, in case people don't know.
No, I think that we don't have anything further to add there.
Okay, great.
So I have just something that I will. I just saw your email, Meryl, that you sent with the format you want me to use to keep minutes and things. So I will officially take over from you, Jim, if you don't mind just doing these last minutes, and then
sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. And if there's anything you think I need to know,
I will do that. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jim, for taking on so many roles in the beginning when we had a smaller commission. We really appreciate your serving as treasurer and secretary and CPC representative.
All that stuff.
Those jobs. And Susan, thanks so much for taking it on.
Oh, not at all.
Okay, I believe that we can adjourn this meeting unless anybody has anything to add.
I just add one more thing. Can you hear me still? I'm sitting in the.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We have a brand new building inspector as of this week.
Oh.
So tried to meet him yesterday, and he was in a meeting with the plumbing inspector and the electrical inspector. But I had mentioned that I'd go see Richard Stevens.
Luke, you're fading in and out.
He was sharing his.
You're breaking up a little, Luke. Is there anything you can do?
I don't
holding
know.
your phone up.
Can you hear me now?
We can
hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hey, there you are.
Okay. Okay. I'm standing on the running board now. Okay, so we have a brand new building inspector. I tried to meet him yesterday, and he was in a meeting. But I just wanted to follow up because I had mentioned that I would try to meet with Richard Stevens.
Yes.
And talk about what was coming our way for our meetings. And as it turns out, he's probably being relieved, and he was sharing his duties with Victor from Brewster. So I met with Victor, and he was on his way out. So I wanted to meet the new building inspector anyway. So if everybody else wants me to just touch base and make sure that things sent our way, I'll do that.
Definitely. Do you know, an interesting thing happened, which is that the Historic Society is putting an addition on their building that apparently is pretty significant, and they never submitted drawings to us.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
which is sort of an irony, I suppose.
We did receive information about it today, and they're going to come before us in a month.
Right.
Because it's too late for the meeting today.
Because the current building inspector, who's there for about 30 seconds more, called me about it earlier today.
Unfortunately, things have been in disarray there because we've had so many different building inspectors that have been temporary, and the secretary is about to go on medical leave, and so it's just been a little bit complicated there. But
no,
we'll
definitely has. But there's things around town that I haven't come our way. I know that the Bradford's about to have some sort of work done.
They are. I mean, I think it's repair, but
I mean, I heard that they're putting a foundation under it, and then I saw that doors and windows were going out. So I don't know if they were just in storage somewhere on the property, but in any case.
Mary told me they were doing the foundation. I didn't know about anything else. She just mentioned that to me in passing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it should have come our way, but in any case, it's not a bad time to follow up so.
What's the guy's name?
I don't even know. I went to meet him yesterday. Gary told me he was in a meeting with the plumbing inspector and the electrical inspector, and he wants to make significant throughout the department right off the bat. And I didn't have the opportunity to meet him because he was in those meetings. So that's far. But I'd like next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be great if you could, we need to have a good relationship with that person and have them be referring stuff to us.
If you do it on a Monday or a Friday, I can. Luke, can you hear me? Luke?
Yeah, I can hear you.
If you do it on a Monday, if you do it on a Monday or a Friday, I'd go with you if you want me to.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Well, we could try tomorrow. I don't know what time he's in the office. Oh, tomorrow's only Thursday.
Tomorrow's only Thursday, but this Friday. Yeah, I could do it Friday or Monday's a holiday, I think. So it'd be Friday or a week from Friday.
Sure. Well, I'm in Wellfleet. If you want to touch base with me, we could take a field trip.
Okay. I'll be in Wellfleet on Thursday night. I'll send you a text on Friday morning about that.
Great. Thank you both.
Good.
I think it would make sense to invite him to our next meeting as well, as he gets settled in, just so he meets the whole commission and we have a chance to talk to him as a group.
about Justin. He went out of his way to know what was going on with everything in our meetings, even though he may not have had to technically. It was nice to have him. So
Yeah,
we'll see if he's willing.
Okay, thank you, Luke. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Okay, I think we're all set, and I will look forward to meeting with all of you in a month. I realize that I did not add the correct date for our next meeting on the agenda, and I apologize for that, but I'll send it to all of you so you have it. But you know, it's always the first Wednesday of the month. So that would be November 3rd is our next meeting.
and Susan, you're the host, so when Meryl adjourns the meeting, then you need to end the meeting.
I'll do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
So unless there's anything for anyone to add, I would like to adjourn the meeting. Anybody have any additional comments or questions? Okay.
No.
Thank you all for being with us.
Thank you.
I hope you have a lovely long weekend and a great month. And I officially adjourn this meeting at 6:14 p.m.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.